You know how sometimes a story just hooks you, and then it keeps twisting, making you second-guess absolutely everything.
Oh, definitely.
Well, that's exactly the kind of narrative puzzle we're digging into today.
Right.
We got hold of something described as a real mind-bending thriller.
Right.
And we've done the deep dive so you get all the fascinating bits without, having to sift through everything yourself.
Exactly. And this one, it kicks off with something that seems, well, pretty simple on the surface.
Huh?
Two women, Josie Fair and Alix Summer. They meet, by chance apparently, on their 45th birthday. Same day.
Wow, okay. That already sounds a bit too neat, doesn't it? Like fate or
Yeah.
something more deliberate.
That's the thing. It feels almost too perfect, that kind of coincidence. It immediately makes you think, okay, what's really going on underneath?
Absolutely, like a setup.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take long for things to get complicated, I gather.
Not at all. One of them, Josie, she becomes, well, intensely interested in Alix.
Okay.
And Alix, as it turns out, is a podcaster. Her whole thing is covering women's transformative journeys.
Ah, I see where this might be going.
Precisely, because Josie doesn't just, listen to the podcast. She proposes herself as the subject for Alix's next season.
Whoa, that's bold.
It's very bold. And instantly, you're asking, right, what are her real intentions here? Is this genuine? Or is it calculated?
Yeah, is she looking to share her story, or is there some other game being played that really puts you on edge from the start?
It really does. You lean in thinking, okay, what's the real story?
And that central question, that constant back and forth, is this true? Am I being played here? That really shaped how we looked at this material.
Yeah.
Josie's story, it's presented as dark, complicated, but also really compelling.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff a podcaster dreams of.
Gold, exactly. But there's always this nagging feeling, this sense that the truth is slippery, hard to grasp.
And the way it's told is pretty unique too, isn't it? Not just a straightforward narrative.
No, not at all. It's structured as a kind of podcast within a podcast.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it weaves in things like actual audio transcripts from their sessions, interview clips, even news reports sometimes.
Huh. So it really blurs the lines.
It really does. Which is fascinating in itself, right? It mirrors how we consume stories now. Lots of personal narratives, podcasts, true crime, where truth can feel very immediate, but also sometimes pretty unreliable.
Performative almost, even when it claims authenticity.
Exactly that. The source material actually compares it to Serial meets Gone Girl with a splash of you.
Okay, wow. That paints a picture. Suspenseful, character-driven, unreliable narrators.
Precisely. And you, as the reader, or maybe the listener within the story, you're right there with Alix as she's recording Josie, trying to piece it all together.
But feeling increasingly uneasy, I bet. Suspecting that Josie's holding back, or maybe even making things up.
That's the core tension. You're questioning every single reveal right alongside Alix.
And you mentioned unreliable narrators.
Yes.
It's not just Josie we should be wary of.
That's a key point the material makes. Neither Josie nor Alix is presented as, completely trustworthy. We're getting everything filtered through their perspectives.
Which are always shaped by everything. Biases, history, what they want to believe.
Right. So it creates this constant state of tension for the audience. You have to actively question what you're being told constantly.
Does the material give a specific moment where that unreliability really hits home early on?
Yes, actually. There's this one chilling scene described. Josie is recounting something genuinely horrific from her past.
Okay.
But her delivery, it's described as eerily calm, almost detached, completely lacking the emotion you'd expect.
Ooh, that's unsettling.
Deeply unsettling for Alix, who's recording her, and for the audience too, right? That disconnect between the story and the telling makes you really doubt your understanding of Josie. It's incredibly effective.
Yeah, the dissonance speaks volumes. It makes you wonder what's really going on in her head.
It does. And it connects to something else. The material brought up a real-life anecdote about a podcast host whose guest, it turned out, had fabricated huge parts of their story, but the guest genuinely seemed to believe their own version.
Wow, so self-deception on a grand scale.
Exactly. And that ties directly into the themes here, how truth gets twisted by memory, by trauma, by ego, guilt, all of it.
It makes you think about the narratives we all build about ourselves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
how subjective truth can really be.
Absolutely. And just when you think you might be getting a handle on things,
Uh-oh.
the narrative pulls the rug out. The material highlights this massive plot twist around the halfway mark.
Described as jaw-dropping, I saw.
Yes, something that completely reframes everything you thought you knew up to that point.
So what happens after a bombshell like that drops?
Well, that kind of midpoint shocker is classic thriller territory, isn't it? Keeps you guessing, forces you to rethink everything.
Right.
And what follows sounds like just chaos. A really fast-paced, unpredictable spiral. The story starts jumping between different timelines, apparently, and it layers in all those different media formats. We talked about the podcast recordings, emails, even police interview transcripts.
Whoa. So you're not just following a story, you're actively trying to piece together evidence.
It sounds like it. Like trying to assemble a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape as you hold them.
That sounds incredibly immersive.
Yeah.
And stressful. You're constantly having to reevaluate.
Constantly, which of course feeds right back into the core themes.
Like the nature of storytelling itself.
Exactly. Who gets to tell the story, whose version wins out, especially when they clash.
Mm.
And it digs deep into female identity, too, that contrast between the public face we put on and the messier private reality.
The public versus private persona. Yeah.
And then there's the power dynamic between Josie and Alix, who's really in control. How does that shift? There's this growing obsession.
It sounds like it goes beyond just the thriller plot mechanics, though. There are deeper issues at play.
Definitely. The material mentions things like generational trauma bubbling up, the impact of mental illness, the way secrets fester and poison things. It's got layers.
So more than just a whodunit or a psychological game.
Much more. And there's this one quote that was highlighted. It really stuck with me. You don't realize you're being manipulated until you've already said yes.
Oof. Yeah. That hits hard.
Doesn't it? It just captures so much of the tension, not just between them, but broader things, relationships, how we consume media.
How easily we can agree to things or buy into narratives without seeing the full picture until it's too late.
Exactly. It's a very relatable, almost uncomfortable thought.
Very. And speaking of uncomfortable, the ending. The source describes it as not entirely neat, ambiguous.
Yes, intentionally so, it seems. It doesn't tie up every single loose end, leave some questions hanging.
What's the effect of doing that, ending on an uncertain note?
Well, it can be really powerful, can't it? It feels more like real life, maybe. Not every mystery gets solved perfectly.
True. Things often remain messy or unknown.
And it stays with you longer. Your mind keeps working on those unanswered questions, turning them over. It sparks more thought, more discussion.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like the kind of story that lingers. Those unresolved bits keep you thinking long after you've finished.
Which brings us, I suppose, to a final thought for our listeners. After exploring this story, where truth is so slippery and the narrators are so unreliable, what about your own experiences? Have you encountered stories, personal ones, books, films, anything where you felt that the truth was hard to pin down, constantly shifting?
That's a great question to leave people with. Definitely something to mull over after this deep dive.